What if the reason you feel spiritually stuck isn't because God is far away, but because your life is full of noise and empty of prayer? In a world of constant distraction and shallow living, the disciplined life is rare. But it's exactly what Christ calls us to. This is not a motivational talk. This is a divine summons. Today, we're going to confront the spiritual apathy that has quietly crept into our routines and ask God to break us, shape us, and awaken us to the life He intended. If you're ready to stop drifting and start living on purpose, this message is for you. Chapter 1. When desire fails, discipline must lead. Let's be honest, there are days when we simply don't feel like praying. Days when the Word of God feels dry. When our hearts are heavy, distracted, or numb. When our flesh whispers, "Just skip today, you'll catch up tomorrow." And in those moments, if we are governed by emotion alone, we will drift. But it is here that discipline must rise to take the lead. Discipline is not the enemy of desire. It is the servant of it. It carries us when feelings falter. It's the rails that keep the train moving forward through storms, deserts, and silence. Jesus said in Luke 9:23, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." That word, daily, cuts deep. Not occasionally, not when it's convenient, not only on Sundays, but daily. The disciplined life doesn't wait for inspiration. It is built on obedience. We often mistake discipline for drudgery, but that's only because we've forgotten who we're meeting with. Prayer is not a task. It's a sacred appointment with the King of Glory. Yet how often do we treat it as optional? The same God who created galaxies is waiting to meet with you in the secret place, and we yawn and scroll past Him. Matthew 6:6 reveals God's heart. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Did you hear that? He sees you in the hidden place. When no one is clapping, when no one is watching. He sees and He rewards. Discipline is not about performance. It's about pursuit. The world applauds hustle, but God honors hunger, and hunger is sustained through habits. It is the quiet resolve to rise early, to open the Word, to whisper His name even when the heart feels dull. Because you know this, He is worthy, even when you don't feel worthy to pray. David wrote in Psalm 63:1, "O God, you are my God, earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you." Notice the order. He seeks before he feels. The disciplined life doesn't wait for the soul to thirst. It moves first, and the thirst follows. Discipline is love in action. It says, "Even if my heart is cold, I will still draw near. Even if I feel nothing today, I know you are still worthy." It is the fuel of faithful saints, the structure behind spiritual growth, and the cry of every soul that longs to finish the race strong. So today, we begin with this prayer. Lord, train my soul in discipline. When my passion fades, let obedience lead. Teach me to seek you not only in emotion, but in devotion. Birth in me a steady pursuit, not flashy, not perfect, but faithful. Even when I feel nothing, I will still come. For you are God, and you are always worth it. If this message is already stirring something in your heart, don't ignore it. The Lord is calling you deeper. Let today be the day you stop living on spiritual autopilot and begin walking in purpose. Would you take a moment to subscribe to The Disciplined Life? We create biblical sermons, meditations, and prayers to help you grow stronger in your daily walk with Christ. Tap the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Let's walk this narrow road together. Chapter 2. When the world distracts, discipline reminds. The war for your attention is constant. Every screen, every sound, every scroll is fighting to capture your focus. And if we're not careful, the world will disciple us more than the Word ever will. Prayer is not just about speaking, it's about slowing down to listen, and that is precisely why it's so hard in an age of noise. But the disciplined life remembers what the world forgets, that stillness is not a luxury, it's a command. Psalm 46 verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the quiet rebellion against hurry. It's the discipline of shutting out 1,000 voices to hear the only one that matters. We wonder why we feel distant from God, yet we spend hours in front of glowing screens and mere minutes in His presence. The soul will starve on that diet, the mind will drift, the heart will grow numb, but discipline calls us back. It reminds us, you were not made for distraction, you were made for communion. Jesus understood this. Amid the crowd's miracles and constant demands, He made time to withdraw. Luke 5 verse 16 tells us, but He would withdraw to desolate places and pray. Jesus, the Son of God, intentionally stepped away from the noise to seek the Father. If He needed it, how much more do we? The world says, be productive, get ahead, don't waste time. But time in prayer is never wasted. In fact, it's where all true power begins. The disciplined life doesn't pray because there's extra time. It prays because there's no other way to survive. Hebrews 12 verse 1 urges us, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Not every distraction is sinful, but every distraction can be a weight, and prayer is where we lay it down. In prayer, the fog of the world begins to lift. Our priorities shift. The things that once felt urgent shrink under the light of eternity. Our anxieties, which once roared, begin to still. We are reminded of what matters and who matters most. The disciplined life is not about rigid schedules or religious performance. It's about a heart that refuses to be enslaved by noise. It's about choosing depth over distraction, communion over chaos. If we want to hear God clearly, we must be willing to step away from the noise. The narrow path is not lined with flashing lights or applause. It's often quiet, sometimes lonely, but always worth it. You cannot walk closely with God while holding hands with the world. Choose today who you will listen to, and choose it daily. Chapter 3. Prayer is where the battle is won. The battlefield isn't out there, it's within. Before sin is acted on, it's entertained in the heart. Before defeat shows up in your decisions, it begins in your desires. And that's why prayer isn't a routine, it's warfare. Too many Christians fight the battle in public, but lose it in private. We try to resist temptation without preparation. We try to lead families, fight sin, preach truth, and walk uprightly, but we do it on empty. We are running marathons on no spiritual fuel. Ephesians 6 verse 12 reminds us, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against spiritual wickedness in high places. This battle is real, and it's not fought with fists, it's fought on our knees. Jesus said in Matthew 26 verse 41, watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He said this to his disciples in Gethsemane, just moments before they would scatter in fear. They slept when they should have prayed, and so do we. We assume strength will show up when we need it, but strength is stored. It is cultivated in the quiet place. No warrior enters battle without first training in secret. No soldier runs to war without discipline, and no believer will stand firm without persistent prayer. When you fail to pray, you're choosing weakness. You're stepping into a spiritual storm with no armor. You're entering a war with no sword. You're saying to the enemy, I'm unguarded, attack at will. But prayer fortifies the soul. It prepares you for unseen trials. It humbles you before pride creeps in. It convicts you before sin gains ground. It fills you before the world drains you dry. In prayer, we gain heaven's perspective. Psalm 18 verse 39 says, for you equipped me with strength for the battle. You made those who rise against me sink under me. God provides strength not just to endure, but to overcome. And that strength is found in secret places, not on stages, not in the applause of men, but in the closet where no one sees but God. Too often, we treat prayer like the last resort instead of the first defense. We fight until we're wounded, then we cry out. But what if we reversed that? What if we prayed before the fall? What if we didn't just ask for deliverance, but for discernment? The disciplined life doesn't wait until the fire rages. It digs the well before the drought. It builds the foundation before the storm. It prays before the need becomes urgent. The world teaches you to fight with rage and willpower, but Christ teaches us to win by surrender, and surrender happens in prayer. If you feel spiritually weak today, start here. Return to the place of prayer. That's where the real battle is fought, and that's where the real victory is won. Chapter 4. Prayer is the fuel of obedience. Obedience doesn't come from willpower, it flows from worship, and there is no true worship without prayer. The disciplined life isn't about rigid schedules or external rules. It's about internal alignment with the heart of God. And prayer is what makes that alignment possible. When we pray, we come under the authority of heaven. We quiet our flesh, we yield our plans, we hear His voice, and we walk in obedience, not out of guilt, but out of love. Psalm 119 verse 10 says, "With my whole heart I seek you, let me not wander from your commandments." Notice the link. Seeking God in prayer is what keeps the heart from straying. Obedience is a byproduct of intimacy. Too often, we try to obey God while staying distant from Him. We make promises to do better, try harder, be more consistent, but we're still walking in our own strength. That's not holiness, that's self-reliance. Jesus said in John chapter 15 verse 5, "Apart from me, you can do nothing." And yet we attempt to follow Him without staying connected to Him. Prayer is the abiding. It is the lifeline to the vine. And when the branch abides, the fruit follows. If your obedience feels dry, forced, or lifeless, it's likely because your prayer life is running cold. But when you stay in communion with God, obedience becomes joy. His commands are no longer burdens, they are blessings. They guide, they protect, they draw you closer to the one your soul loves. Look at the life of Jesus. Though He was the sinless Son of God, He prayed constantly. In Mark 1 verse 35, it says, "And rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark, He departed and went out to a desolate place, and there He prayed." If Jesus needed prayer to walk in perfect obedience, how much more do we? Prayer isn't a break from obedience, it is the very power to obey. It's where we confess our weakness, receive fresh grace, and align our hearts with God's will. It's where we stop striving and start abiding. And that's why the enemy works overtime to keep you from prayer. He doesn't mind if you read books about it, talk about it, or plan to do it. But when you actually fall to your knees, everything shifts. Because prayer is where the flesh dies, pride is silenced, strength is renewed. Psalm 19 verse 13 says, "Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sins, let them not have dominion over me." That kind of prayerful dependence is what fuels a holy life. Not performance, not pressure, but God's power working through a submitted vessel. So if you long to walk in obedience, don't just ask for strength. Ask for communion. Seek His face daily. Let prayer become the rhythm of your life. Because when your heart is full of Him, obedience won't feel like a duty, it will overflow as devotion. Chapter 5. Living in constant communion. The disciplined life isn't built on isolated moments of prayer, it is rooted in continual communion with God. We often reduce prayer to something that happens in the morning, before meals, or when we're desperate. But for the believer pursuing a disciplined life, prayer becomes the atmosphere of the soul. It's not just what we do, it's how we live. Prayer is our unseen posture, our secret power, and our constant anchor. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 17, Paul exhorts us to pray without ceasing. This is not a command to lock ourselves away and do nothing else. It is a call to live with a heart constantly tuned to God's presence, in every place and in every task. Whether we're at work, at home, in traffic, or in trial, we carry an awareness of Him. That's communion. And communion keeps us grounded. In a noisy world filled with endless distractions, prayer is how we stay sensitive to the Spirit. It is the continual laying down of our thoughts, emotions, and reactions before the Lord. Without this rhythm, we drift, we react in the flesh. We forget who we are and whose we are. Jesus modeled this beautifully. Though surrounded by crowds and pressed by needs, He was never hurried, never distracted, never reactive. Why? because he lived in communion with the Father. He said in John chapter 5 verse 19, "The Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing." That's the fruit of a life immersed in prayer. Many believers today are anxious, scattered, and spiritually dry, not because God is distant, but because we are distracted. We check our phones more than we check our hearts. We scroll before we seek. We talk to everyone but the one who truly understands. But if we want peace, clarity, and focus, it starts with abiding. In Isaiah 26 verse 3, we're given a powerful promise. You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. That's what daily communion does. It steadies the heart. It clears the noise. It brings God's peace into the chaos of life. The disciplined life isn't about escaping into a monastery. It's about learning to walk with God through the ordinary, to whisper prayers in the middle of meetings, to offer worship in the quiet of your car, to seek his wisdom before replying to a text. These small habits, done with a sincere heart, build a life of unbroken communion. And over time, that life becomes powerful, joyful, unshakable. Because when you live with your soul anchored to God, you are no longer moved by the storms around you. So don't just schedule prayer, live prayerfully. Let your life become a temple where God dwells. That is the heart of true discipline, not cold duty but constant devotion. If today's message reminded you of the beauty and necessity of prayer, then don't just walk away inspired. Walk away changed. Begin building your life around communion with God. Start with 5 minutes if you must, but start. Every revival begins on the knees. Subscribe to The Disciplined Life to receive weekly teaching, heartfelt prayers, and biblical encouragement. And if this message spoke to you, share it with someone who is ready to go deeper. Stay faithful, stay prayerful, stay disciplined. God bless you and keep pressing in.